where are you from? And you say, I'm German. And I don't know, where are you really from? So, I'm from Wedding. No, what I mean, where are you really from? What are your roots? It's very difficult for people to wrap their head around, but for them I don't look German. The Nazi party here is really good at moving the way we speak further and further to the right. They normalize words that years ago we wouldn't have said.
This is Selim, a rapper, producer, and activist from Berlin. In this episode, we discuss his experiences and the challenges he faced with racism growing up in Berlin, what inspired him to pursue rap, how the far right is shifting the language used against foreigners, and whether Germans are also facing discrimination.
If you call someone Kartoffel, you're not dehumanizing them. You're not taking you're not saying you're not human. Everybody can be discriminated against, but not everybody can experience racism.
Yeah.
Of course, Islam is a part of Germany. Like, you cannot deny that anymore. If you're really living by Christian values, then you should know that Christian values are reaching out. In the end, we're all people, and there's good and bad people with everyone. Or do you fall for that trap? You belong, you're worthy, and you're here for a reason.
We want to thank one of our sponsors for supporting this podcast. WonderTax is a platform that makes your tax declaration in Germany easy. Try it out for free and only submit if you're fully satisfied. Visit gutentag.wondertax.de and give it a try. Now, without further ado, let's start with the conversation.
Selim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
How would you describe what you do?
I would say I'm a rapper, I'm a songwriter, and like you already said, I'm also an activist. So we founded a label called Global Origins, and with the label, we're giving workshops at youth centers and schools all over Germany, where we combine rap with anti-racism work. And we also have a project with young refugees, where we go to the refugee homes where the kids live, and we through hip hop, through rap, we teach them German and also how to kind of, get along in German society a little bit better. And then we also have a project with a youth center in Märkisches Viertel in the north of Berlin, where we teach the kids how to express themselves through hip hop and through media. And then adding to that, to the activism part, comes also the social media content, like you mentioned, the interviews, the talking to people, and openly taking a stand against racism and for more tolerance and representing the voices of the people that experience discrimination and racism in Berlin and in Germany.
It's very interesting that you mentioned that you teach German through music, because it's one of the ways of breaking this language barrier.
Exactly. Like Luardo said, he kind of got in touch with German and Germany through Azad, through Kreuzfeld Jakob, through German rap artists, through Sido, through Savage, and that gives you a different access to the language. I think it makes it more accessible, and was similar for me when I lived. I also lived in other countries a lot. When I lived in France, it was also through French hip hop that I kind of got a better connection to the language, also because I felt like it's not a teacher talking to me, it's the people that look like me, that tell stories similar to mine, that talk French in their way.
Yeah, that's a cool stuff. I mean, I all of the basic words in German, I learned them from rappers. The whole "was geht ab" and all of that stuff.
It's good. It's good to know these things and to know the slurs and everything. So.
Yeah. And where did you grow up?
I'm born and raised in Berlin, in Wedding. So I've been called a unicorn before in Berlin. So
yeah,
born and raised here.
How was being born and raised in Wedding? I mean, 30 years ago was completely different.
It was very different. Yeah, Wedding has always had a bad reputation. Still does today, even though it's changing a lot at the moment. But even though I don't like the term, but it's like described as a financially deprived area. So you have crime, you have drug abuse, you have everything that comes with that. But it was still, I don't know, like for me it was normal, and it's not like nothing like compared to America or to the French banlieues. Like you can still walk around and you don't get shot or anything. So it's like financially not the best area, but for me it was just normal growing up there. But the financial pressure and the things you see growing up, drug addicts, you know, people selling certain type of things and stuff is just normal, and you don't realize it.
And yeah, but I can understand what you say when you see these things like kind of normal. So for us in Mexico, Mexico is considered for the rest of the world kind of a dangerous country.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we are always like, oh yeah, it's not that dangerous. So we are completely used to that. But if you see it from an outside perspective, then you say, okay, maybe that head that I saw in the street the other day was that.
Yeah, but it's also because
signal.
Like in Europe, you always hear the bad stories about Mexico. Yes. Apart from now, you have a woman as a president. I mean, I think that was the only positive news I heard from Mexico in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's always, the cartel and this happened and the border, whatever, you know. So that's also created that image.
Yeah, it creates some sort of
And it was similar with wedding growing up. Like, I played football in Prenzlauer Berg in a club there, and also I went to school in other parts of Berlin. And I had friends that they didn't want to come visit me because I was living in Wedding.
Yeah,
and I was like, it's just like, what's going on? You're not going to get stabbed just because we're going to the cinema. But no, they didn't want to come, and their parents didn't allow them. And for me, it was weird.
Interesting.
And I think that was also one of the first times that I realized there's something, what's different? Apparently there's something different with where I live. I don't know. So.
Yeah, it's true. And tell me a little bit about your background. I mean, you're half German and half.
If we want to really go into detail and talk about percentages, I'm quarter Hungarian, quarter German, and half Nubian. So on my mom's side, my grandfather was Hungarian. He came to Germany in 1956. There was an uprising in Hungary against the Soviet occupation, and he took part in it, and he got shot in the leg and fled to Germany. Oh. He met my grandmother on my mom's side here in Bavaria, actually. And and my father is Nubian. The Nubians are an African people, one of the oldest African people that exists, and they live in the area of the deep south of Egypt and in Sudan.
You are German. How is it taken when you say, I'm German, I was born here? And is it there a different perception for them when they look at you and you look different?
Yeah. From the start, ever since I was a child, people would tell me you're not German. Yeah. So it's always.
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry to interrupt this amazing show, but I need a bit of help. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can probably see the subscribe button. If you do, it would mean the world if you can subscribe. It's the best way to support the show. Because when you subscribe, I can show it to potential guests and brands and stuff like that. And it really helps to grow the podcast. Have cooler conversations, cooler guests, and it helps really a lot. So if you don't mind, thank you so much. Now let's get back to it.
At a party, for example, you meet someone new, and either the first question or the second question after they ask your name is, where are you from? And you say, I'm German. And I don't know, where are you really from? I say, I'm from Wedding. No, you know what I mean. Where are you really from? What are your roots? That's the kind of conversation.
That sounds like a very bad joke. So these people that you see in the street and then they look Asian and then they're, where are you from?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm from here. No, your people is from there. It sounds like a really bad joke. But these people were Germans, the one that were telling you this? Or also...
No, it's different. Like if you guys were also born here and you asked me, it would be different because I know you also have a different story. So I'd be, hey, my dad's Nubian, my mom's German, whatever. But it's usually Germans that ask this question.
Yeah, because for example, we are asked that question very often, but for us, we understand it because
you say,
we are not from here. Even from Latin America, we look alike so much that sometimes you don't know from which country are you. Yeah, exactly. We can see someone from Venezuela and Mexico, so we don't know that they're different until they start speaking. So it's something that is hard for us maybe to wrap our head around how that must be like.
Imagine and you're in Mexico and your neighbor walks up to you and asks you where you're from. You say, I'm from Mexico, and they say, no, you're not.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. And that's something that happens to a lot of people.
I would say everybody that has some sort of background, family member that's from somewhere else. I've even spoken to Germans that are German, like they trace back their ancestors. They're all German, but their looks are foreign, quote unquote. They get asked, "Where are you from?" Or I talked to someone recently. He's from like near Cottbus in Brandenburg, and he has like a bit of a darker tone and dark hair, and he was called the Ausländer with his friend group, even though he wasn't.
Yeah.
So so it even gets to that extent, because for some reason it's still this image of you're German, you're white, you're blonde, you have blue eyes or whatever.
Yeah. What is for you to be a German? How would you define it? Because that's a question that a lot of people say. What is German? Is the ethnicity? Is the language? What is it for you?
I think it's definitely not defined by the way you look, and I think it's also not defined whether you grow up here or not. I think anybody can be German if you identify with the country and you feel like at home here, then you're German. Like whether you recently came here or you were born here or you came here 10 years ago, it doesn't matter. If you feel at home here to some extent, you're German for me. And especially if you speak the language as well.
Yeah. And then you were raised in a German household, right? So the traditions and everything you follow are German. So
for me, I grew up with the German side of my family and German-Hungarian side of my family. And it's very difficult for people to wrap their head around the fact that I grew up German, but for them I don't look German. And so for me, my identity as a child was German, obviously.
Yeah.
That makes you, that when you always then get that question and get told like you're not German, that also makes you question your identity. Because at some point I asked myself, okay, well, then what am I? And like you said, like I have a lot of friends, like their parents are from Africa or from Spain or from wherever. And so they had this culture as well as at home, and that gave them a strong identity as well. Because so they would say, oh, I'm Spanish, I'm from Sierra Leone, I'm Ivorian or whatever. So it makes it easier for them to say, this is my identity, if somebody asks them where you're from. And or for example, because a lot of people they are second, third generation Turkish, so they would say I'm Turkish because at home it was Turkish culture for them. So it gives them the identity is a bit different then. So it's very difficult for people to wrap their head around the concept that I grew up in a German household, even though I want to say my family is not as that typical stereotypical German, because my family are different, and also because of my Hungarian grandfather has also like Hungarian influences and is not the stereotype of a German.
I have met some people, they are Germans because they were born here, but their parents are sometimes from Russia or from East Europe, or some of them are even were born in Russia, but they moved here when they were 5. And it's strange that people don't tend to question their identity. And they will always say, yeah, my parents are from Russia, so we have a lot of Russian traditions. But on their identity is never a question, if they're Germans or not.
Because they're white.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the strangest part. Even though culturally they might be half.
Even people from Eastern Europe that are white, they also experience xenophobia here. So I also I got comments or people messaging me and being like, hey, my parents are from Russia, but I also experienced this and this just because I'm Russian. So it's
But before they used to make a lot of jokes from people from Poland. Right?
Exactly.
Like they are the robbers or stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
What made you become a anti-racist activist?
I think it was in me from the start, because I experienced really severe racial bullying in school. So, like I said, I was born and raised in Wedding, but my mom sent me to school in Tempelhof. Because Wedding, not the nicest schools, like we talked about. And she wanted me to go to a school where might have education would be better. And so I went to Tempelhof, and the disadvantage there was that I was the only kid that had a different name, had a different skin color when I still had hair, different color of my hair. So, for the first 3 years there, I was the target.
Yeah.
And called the N-word, called foreigner, called whatever, you cannot play with us anymore. Been locked up in lockers, been punched in the face, whatever. So everything from physical to abuse to like being called names, everything was there.
Was it back then calling the N-word something normal in Germany?
No. Even then, you already knew it was bad.
And it was purely majority of white kids there? Okay. Yep. So there was no safe space to say with other kids who were maybe experiencing the same thing.
Yeah. And the problem was also the teachers didn't take it seriously. When I talked to them, there's one the headmaster explained to me that the N-word actually means human.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And at home, unfortunately, I grew up with my German white stepdad and obviously my German side of the family. They unfortunately didn't know at the time how to handle it. So for me, it was, as a child, like you were just lonely because there was no one you could turn to, no one that understood your experience. And people questioning your experience and kind of gaslighting you and telling you kind of, no, it's your fault. So that you're experiencing this. So it was tough as a child just to be, you're just lonely. What saved me was rap. You know, for me, it was Semi Deluxe. You know, because it was that time, it was, I think, the early 2000s maybe, you know, and then Semi Deluxe kind of stepped on the scene, and in school, the other kids were listening to it and they showed it to me. And I heard his songs, and for the first time, there was someone that actually talked about the same experience. Like that's the way he grew up, like in a white family with his white stepfather, his white mom, his white sister, I think as well. He was the only child. He was othered. He experienced racism, and he talked about it. And there was like, as a child, you know, I'm not the only one. There's someone else that has this experience. And he also looked like me. And later I found out his father's also Nubian. So he's also half Nubian.
Okay. And
for me, it was just, you know, wow, you know, I'm not alone. There's somebody that understands me, that relates, and that says what he expresses what I cannot express. And for me, that changed everything.
Then you started to write.
Yeah, I was already writing stories before, but then that inspired me to rap. And then somebody came to our school and gave a rap workshop.
Okay. Wow.
And he showed us like the 4 elements. Like he showed us to break dance, he showed us how to produce, how to do graffiti, and also how to rap. And for me, because I was already writing stories, the rapping was my thing.
How old were you when this happened?
10 or 11.
Hip hop, it's for a lot of people, for a lot of rappers, they always say hip hop saved my life.
Yeah.
Because for many also is the way they stay away sometimes from crime or from depression, from feeling lonely.
It's exactly that. And it was the same for me. Through that experience, I learned that through hip hop, you can express yourself. And also that by expressing yourself, you can help others because they have a similar experience, or you can say what they cannot say. You can express their feelings in a way that maybe they can't. So I completely agree. Hip hop saved my life.
Yeah. And when you speak with other people, like now that you have, for example, when you talk in the streets with people, has it been surprising for you to hear some of their stories that nowadays they still experience?
Unfortunately not, no. It's no surprise.
Nothing has changed?
No.
Yeah.
And to some extent at the moment it even gets worse because people feel like, oh, we can say it. Because if you look at the results of the last election, on also the way politicians talk about foreigners, it makes it normal. And the Nazi party here is really good at moving the way we speak further and further to the right. They normalize words that years ago we wouldn't have said. They normalize things to say about other people, racist things to say that wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago. And the way this shifts, and the established parties, they take over, the media take over, they use this, and this normalizes it, and people then feel, oh, we can say it. I've heard a lot from people that they were on the train, they were on the U-Bahn, they were on the S-Bahn, and people were like openly talking about, foreigners this and foreigners that, and or shouting at them or whatever, because now they feel like they can, because the people up there, they do it, so we can do it too. Finally, we can say it.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that, and also have seen some videos that sometimes at parties they play the famous song, Now song, Aus Länder raus, right? Yeah. And everyone chanting. Some people say it's just a joke. Others, maybe it's not just a joke for them. But I hear more often that that's happening and becoming, as you said, being normalized.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of joke is that?
Yeah.
Like singing that.
It's a joke for a certain type of big group and for the majority here. And the thing is, if you're white and you hear the song, maybe you don't agree, but it's no danger for you. You don't know. You might be, what are they doing? This is wrong, but you don't know the feeling.
They will never be affected.
Yeah. You always have the choice to stay. You shut your mouth, you stay.
Yeah.
And,
but how they will feel if you say Germans out?
Actually, yeah.
Then they will feel it.
Maybe, but they are still in the majority. So it doesn't affect them. They can still walk outside and...
They would just be offended.
Yeah, they would be offended, which is fine, I understand. But they can walk outside and the majority of people looks like them. Police look like them. Politicians look like them. Teachers look like them.
They have all the support.
Yeah, all the people in power look like them. So it's always you're punching upwards and they are kicking downwards. So,
but there's a lot of people saying that there is discrimination now against Germans, that they say that words like Allmann, Kartoffel, and what else did they say? Weissbrot, I don't know what else. That those are slurs that are racist against German. What's your opinion on that?
It's definitely a thing, and it happens, and we have to talk about it as well. That, for example, in school, kids are being bullied because they are German or because they are Christian, and that they are because they don't, I don't know. And, this is happening. People are being bullied for that and discriminated, and they're being discriminated against that. And this is horrible, and this shouldn't happen. Like, nobody, no matter what skin color, no matter what religion or gender or origins, should be discriminated for that, for something that they didn't choose. The difference is just that it's not racism. There is no racism against white people. The thing is that when we talk racism, there's certain factors we need to keep in mind. So, like I said, majority, and power. Who are the people here that are in power, and what do they look like? The teachers are white. The people at the Amt are white. The politicians are white. Most of the police officers are white. So these people, they also, I'm not saying everybody, but there's a lot of racism, and many people make decisions and decide over your life, your fate, based on your skin color, your religion, your heritage, your origins. For example, it is a fact, and there's statistics about that, and there were studies that people that have a different background or different religion in school don't get that recommendation for the gymnasium that easily, or that they are called aggressive just because there's an outburst, but a white child wouldn't be called aggressive. Things like that. So these people decide whether you get the money. These people decide whether they arrest you. These people are maybe judges, and they decide for how long you go to prison. So it's people in power that decide over your life, that make the decisions that can really influence the rest of your life. And so this is one part of racism. And then when we look at the history, are there racist theories about white people, why they are below black people or brown people or whatever? Are there theories about them that they are less intelligent? Were they enslaved for 500 years? It's where they called Kartoffel and for 500 years, and people said them, you don't have a name anymore, now your name is Kartoffel. So it's things like that we also need to look at still to, these, even though this was in the past, it still has influence until today. For example, we travel around, and it's also a case in Mexico that what's beauty? You're beautiful when you're white, when you're blonde, when you have straight hair. And this is everything, like all stuff like that influences us today, also in Germany. So, we also know, it's always this word systemic, but for me, racism, when you say racism, that always includes systemic as well. So everybody can be discriminated against, but not everybody can experience racism. And yes, we also have to talk about discrimination against Germans that are being called Alman, Kartoffel, and Weißbrot. And this is horrible and it shouldn't happen and we need to talk about it, but you cannot compare Alman to the N-word or
the K-word.
Or the K-word or whatever.
Yeah, feel more like the Alman thing is more like a reaction to the K-word.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
Those who don't know what the K-word is, you have to Google it.
Please don't Google it.
What you mentioned feels a bit like this Black Lives Matter. And then they say, the white people says, yeah, all lives matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you are not getting the points there.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, all lives matter, but all lives matter don't matter until Black lives matter, brown lives matter, whatever. I don't like this black, brown, usually this, but it describes it,
For me, it was more like a Black Lives Matter too.
Exactly, yeah.
Because, all lives matter, yeah, that's what everyone thinks, but it's like the Declaration of Human Rights. All men are equal. Yeah. All white men, because women still had less rights and black people were still slave.
Yeah.
They were still slaves when the human rights thing was written. So what about that? So it's the same thing. All lives matter. Yeah, but you're just taking a segment of lives and then you're still excluding black lives or brown lives. Which is something that I think never was understood correctly for many Americans. I don't know how was the reaction here in Germany, to be honest. But in United States, it was like a lot of videos about all lives matter or Black Lives Matter. Of course, all life matter. Yeah. I mean, also about the calling it Alman, and it feels more like a reaction to that. Because what if you're being called like something like that, the K word or the N word? Yeah. Of course, you want to hit back. And what can you say to them? What? And then they come up with this word about stereotypical angry German old guy, and they call him the Alman. Yeah. But I think it's just a reaction to that.
It's not, in the end, it's not, you're not saying the same. If you translate Alman, you're calling someone German. So Alman means Deutsch. So, and you're not, if you call someone Kartoffel, you're not dehumanizing them. You're not taking their, you're not saying you're not human. You're not saying you're not on my level. That's what you do with the N word and the K word. You're telling someone you are not human. You are below me. You don't have any dignity. Yeah. So it's never the same as if you call someone Alman or Weißbrot, it doesn't have the same weight. And it's like I said, you're always like punching up and the other people are kicking down. So it's not.
And is that really happening in schools, or is this just one or two cases and then in the media just gets like spread?
I think it's both, but it's also really happening. Yeah. And I think that's the problem with Germany, that's not talked about. And because then people, they don't feel understood, they don't feel represented. So they turn to the Nazis that say, oh, you're German, this won't happen with you here. These people bullied you, we are against them. We are giving you this feeling of belonging. So stick with us. Okay. So we also have to talk about that this is happening, and this is really happening. But it's obviously not happening everywhere. And again, it is this problem of representation. It's happening in some schools, in some areas, but then it gets blown up, and they're like, oh no, it's happening everywhere.
I mean, it's told in the news that in German schools, kids are not speaking German anymore. And it's like, must be some schools in some areas, because it's like,
I
cannot even go and buy anything on the store without having to speak German. So what are you talking about? That German is being lost. It's like everywhere I go, they speak German.
Yeah.
Some places, some Italian restaurants, they will speak in Italian just to make it sound more exotic. Maybe
and then they are not Italian. Actually,
they're not Italian. They just say 2-3 words in Italian just to make it look more authentic. Yeah, yeah, and. Also, I mean, there's also a lot of currently in Germany about the religion being part of their identity. Has it been assumed that you are Muslim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
What are your thoughts on when they say also that Germany is a Christian country?
It's because for me it's so weird because I don't know when this was, but I think Angela Merkel said, even though I'm not the biggest fan, but she did some things that I felt were good decisions. Like, and I think at some point she said that Islam belongs to Germany. And then a few years ago, or was it this year, last year? I don't know. Somebody else said, "Oh no, Islam is not a part of Germany." But again, you have to accept that fact. There are so many people that are Muslim in Germany and that are living here peacefully and or maybe religion doesn't even play a big role, or they go to the mosque and the other people go to church and it's just a part of their life. And of course, Islam is a part of Germany. Like, you cannot deny that anymore. And the more you deny it, or if politicians step up and are like, no, Muslims are not a part of Germany, the more you give Muslims a feeling of not belonging and of being not wanted. So,
but when they say stuff like Islam belongs to Germany, triggers more people to the right.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, because they're like, no, we're a Christian country. But then in the end, the people that are saying that, how Christian are they really? Like, how are you going to church on Sundays? Are you praying?
Are you paying the church tax?
Are you paying the church tax? Very important.
Yeah, it can be that people is complaining about that and they don't pay the church tax. So it's like, how come that?
Exactly. Are you doing are you saying grace before you have dinner?
Yeah.
So are you? And if you're really living by Christian values, then you should know that Christian values are reaching out.
Yeah.
Being open to other people, helping,
loving
everyone, accepting everyone. So it's just a hypocrisy. That's annoying.
Yeah.
And adding to that, it's always this assumption that when you're Muslim, you don't have values or whatever. It's like this discourse like, oh, you're Muslim, so I don't know, you're different, you're not open or whatever, you don't want to connect to people. It has a weird intention.
I think since 9/11 probably that was destroyed because, I mean, a lot of the values of a Muslim are very similar to a radical Christian, right? Or a traditional Christian, right? Both of them should, maybe Muslims will not drink alcohol, but a good Catholic should not get drunk.
Exactly.
Can drink wine, but should not get drunk. Should not lie. The other one should not lie. The other one should not eat meat during the, how's it called?
The Lent.
Before
Ramadan.
Eastern. They don't eat.
The Lent.
And they also don't
Eastern,
do it. Yeah, they only will eat fish and the other one not. So a lot of things that are very fundamental are very similar, but still you will trust that, or you would think that the Christian or the Catholic has more values than the Muslim. And when they say that's a very traditional Muslim, you're somehow scared. Is there a country that where you say you have been in many countries? Is there one of them where you have faced or seen that there is less racism, where you feel more welcome, or more you feel like it has gone over this barrier of, okay, people who look different are treated different? Or you think there's no place in the world?
I don't really know, because to some extent, people that I talked to, they told me that from their experience, racism in other countries is a lot worse. From my experience, what was interesting was that when I lived in the UK, I lived there 3 times. I lived in the US and I lived in France. And whenever I was there, and when people ask me where you're from, and I say I'm German, they wouldn't question it.
Okay.
And so I feel like maybe the UK and the US and maybe France a little bit are further in that, and when it comes to that regard, that when you're American or you're British and you say, and you're black or whatever, and you say, I'm British, then, or I'm English, and it's fine. There's no question.
Yeah, I also believe that.
But I'm curious because earlier you said there's a word for people from Latin America in Spain. Why is that? What's the perception in Spain of
there is
South and Latin America?
Like in everywhere, some countries, they don't like when a lot of immigrants from certain regions come. So they call people from South America Sudaca, like South, and then I don't know where that invention of the word comes from, but that's what they use for people from South America or from Latin America that migrates to Spain. Many of them, they did it in the illegal way because, it's the same language. You can find a job, like in undocumented migration works. Yeah, so I don't know since when is that word used. I just heard that that's how they call them. And I thought, okay, they have a word for it. Okay, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Funnily, Mexico is not South America. It's North America. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot of Mexican undocumented in Spain because, of course, it's just easier to go to the United States and maybe you get even more money there. But a lot of people from Ecuador or from Colombia and Venezuela, there's a lot of people there, and therefore they have gotten this kind of reaction from Spain. Yeah. But of course, I think also in the UK or United States, it's more common to see people, not white people, in power or working at top positions. And it's something that in Germany, for example, I can imagine is not there yet. We have seen some politicians that are from Turkish heritage, and also recently I saw that was someone from the parliament who was black. He had to resign because of the whole harassment that he was getting and threats.
Actually, he said that I think he was older, and he said for him it's time to step down and make space for a new generation. But also there was a lot of harassment as well.
Yeah. So it's like this: how much can they accept that someone that looks different is in the position of power?
But it's interesting you say that because I spoke to people from Spain and I interviewed them on the streets, and they said that they were white Spanish, and they said that for them Germany seems like there are more people of color that have like higher paid jobs than in Spain. They said that in low wage jobs in Spain you always see people of color, black people of color. But they said that in Germany, there's more people in like higher positions.
Interesting. I mean,
interesting.
When we went to the UK, one thing I noticed on the stations and everything, the cleaning people in doing the hard work were mostly from Africa. And I thought, okay, here's very different than in Germany. In Germany, at least in Berlin, you will still see white people.
Yeah, as well.
But sometimes you don't see the difference between maybe people from Poland or from East Europe. So therefore, it's hard to say. And because also and for people from Spain or also from people from Latin America, some people that is coming from Lebanon or from Turkey, for us, they still look white. Okay, because a white person in Mexico looks like a Turkish person.
All right, yeah.
Black beard, but light skin, but black hair and black beard and hairy. A normal, real Mexican cannot grow a proper beard. That's always the thing. Yeah, if they can grow a proper beard, then in their heritage, they must be mixed with something.
So your beard level is like...
no, it's not there yet. I will never be able to grow a beard like yours. Never.
But Benji, like, you're good.
Also
like,
not
you're missing a lot.
I actually have to shave here because otherwise it looks
just
like...
patches.
Yeah.
If you want to grow like a real proper beard, then those Mexicans, normally they have heritage from Lebanon and stuff like that, or from Spain. Yeah, to have grow
the beard genes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but this thing that you mentioned, it's also because Germany, the way that they allow people to come here, so they are in need of very skilled people, and normally they can search within the continent, within Europe, but I think the whole Europe needs qualified people, so they either moved to a different country or they stayed in their country. So that's why people from India, from Mexico, from Latin America. They are very skilled in technical matters. They move to Germany, and that's why they have high-paid jobs.
It's true. A problem with that often is though that, for example, people come here maybe as refugees, and they are highly skilled, trained in whatever field, maybe doctors, maybe professors, whatever, but their certificates are not accepted.
True.
Because it's, for some reason, it's not the same level. So if they are then allowed to work, they have to do the low wage jobs.
Yeah.
If they're ever allowed to work.
If they're ever allowed to work.
Because that's also a problem. They come here, they want them to work, or they hate people that is not working. They're just receiving social help, benefits, but you don't allow them to work. So that's like...
The problem is, though, when you work, they're taking our jobs. Yeah. When you don't work, that's you're just some benefits taking our money.
I've seen a lot of TikToks that say, what do you think about immigrants? They're taking our jobs and they're not working. It's like, so are they taking the jobs or are they not working? Yeah. Come on. Yeah. But some people are scared as well. Like either they take the jobs or that they replace the population. Have you heard about this?
Replacement,
the great replacement theory.
But there's also a thing. So say you grew up, you were born here, you're German, fully German, raised here, you speak the language perfect, you have your education here and everything. How can it then be that somebody else comes here? Maybe they're not even trained or their certificates are not accepted. So then they are allowed to have their education here. So they learn the language. They have they do their education, everything here is taking ages, and then they get the job. So is it their fault or is it your fault as a German that you don't get the job even though you were born and raised here, speak the language, had the chance for an education, and don't have the job? So
whose fault is that?
Whose fault is that?
Yeah, that's why I always think also same thing. United States, there's people who go there with nothing. They have to sleep in a room with 10 other people. They work 14 hours per day. They will work their way up, and 10, 15 years later, now they have a house. Now they have a better job. Now they have created their own contractor company. How come you in the middle of United States can complain that you cannot make it in your own country with your own visa, with your own resources, with your own land, and you can still not make it in your own country? Whose fault is that? Same thing. Sometimes I think about people here. I don't like to say that aloud because it might trigger, but sometimes I really do think that. And what do you think about this great replacement theory?
It's complete bullshit.
It's conspiracy theory.
It's like, oh, guys, let's get together. Okay, I'm meeting up with all the black and brown people. We get them all together, and then we make up this theory, and we will replace all the white people. But like, who came up with this bullshit? Like, do we have a yearly meeting, and we're like, oh, okay, now we conspire against white? No, man.
Yeah.
Why? Why? I really don't understand it. But the problem is, it works with people. And that's the weird thing. It's no matter whether you look at Germany, whether you look at Spain, you look at Canada. If people, or the US, if you live in places where you're only with white people, only with your own people, and you're not in touch with any other nationalities, it's always where the racists get the most support. So easy, and then you get your education through TikTok, through media, whatever, and they tell you, oh, there's more and more coming, and then the algorithm plays in, and you watch this one video, and they show you more and more, and you're like, oh no, they're all coming and flooding our country, and they want to replace us, and then you start believing that.
Yeah.
And like, but what? I don't understand this.
And it's funny that at the same time, they have actual meetings when they gather to deport people from the country.
Exactly. We were playing at a protest a couple of weeks ago against that, because there was this conference by the Nazis that they had this famous Nazi speaker coming talking about remigration. Good look, another word that they brought into the way we speak. A few years ago, nobody even mentioned that. So they came up with this term that now we are using as well. Anyway, so they have the conference right there, conference about how to remigrate people.
Where's the Great Replacement Congress? Let's go there.
We should make them up just to scare white people. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I also want to clarify that, because I talk about white people and stuff, is, of course, I don't mean everybody. Like, half of my family is white. Of course I don't. I don't mean them. There's a lot of very, very aware and open white people in Germany as well. But when we're just talking about a certain part of Germany.
The besorgter Bürger, or how they
call it? Die besorgten Bürger, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And also fine. The thing is, I also want to understand different opinions, and I understand that people are maybe worried or concerned, and they see that things are changing, and they see there are people coming from different countries with a different religion, and maybe they don't speak the language, and maybe they have different customs and everything. I understand that people are worried or concerned, or it's new for them, especially if they are from somewhere where they have never been in touch with other people, other nationalities. And I understand that. The question is just, how do you go about it? If you hear one story about somebody from somewhere else doing a robbery or whatever, stabbing someone, do you then go around thinking everybody that looks like this person is stabbing someone or robbing me or attacking me? Or do you keep in mind that in the end, we're all people, and there's good and bad people with everyone? Or do you fall for that trap that then people come and say, oh, these people, be careful. And these people are the reason for all your problems. They are the reason that you maybe don't find a flat. They are the reason that you don't find it work. They are the reason that you don't have money. They are the reason that everything is more expensive in stores. They are the reason that you don't have a wife.
They stole your wife.
They stole you. They covered it, take our jobs, our money, and our wives. You know, and then people have been saying that since the 60s. A friend of mine from France, he told me that, I think it's about the people from Bretagne in the, I don't know, 1800s, 1900s, whatever. They needed workers in like central France and Paris. So a lot of people from Bretagne came to Paris to do these minor low-paid jobs. And the newspapers then wrote, oh, they all come in here taking our jobs, taking our, they talk different, they have different customs, they have different traditions, they're not like us, they are taking over our society. So that's been happening since the 1900s. In Germany, so my grandma on my mom's side, she was born in Bavaria. She was born in 1940. So she experienced 5 years of war. After the war, the Germans from the former German parts in like Eastern Europe, they came to Germany. And she grew up in a very small village. And there was empty houses. So the people were put there, like next to them. And you know what they said in the village, or what the general discourse was at the time? Oh, they don't talk like us because their German was different. They have a different religion because she was in a Protestant village, but they were Catholic. They have different customs. Their food smells weird because they brought garlic and pepper, which was unheard of until then. So that was already the case back then, even though they were German. People were like, oh no, there are too many of them. They are taking our spots. Then the 60s came, the contracts with Italy, with Portugal, with Turkey, with Spain. People were brought here to work, to rebuild the country, to do the shit jobs, quote unquote shit jobs, the low wage jobs that the Germans, there were not enough Germans. So many people died in war. So, and what did they say? Oh, there are too many. They're taking our jobs. They're taking our wives. They're taking our money. So, okay, then 70s come, 80s come. War. A lot of people come from Lebanon, for example. Oh, there's too many of them. And especially a lot of the refugees from Lebanon in the 80s, they are not allowed to work here until today. Still don't have a work permit. And oh, there are too many, they're taking, whatever, you know. And then the 90s come, war comes down, East and West Germany get unified. Eastern Germans obviously come to West Germany as well because there's better opportunities, and you know, you haven't experienced this life here, and you were always told it's so great in West Germany. You know what people said? They don't talk like us. They don't have a religion. They are different than us. They are taking
they're communist.
They're communist. They are taking our work. They're taking our money. They're taking everything that's ours. And it's been going on like that since 1945. And it's every time,
every 10 years,
every time somebody or party or whatever steps up and says, oh, these people, it's their fault. It's their fault that your life is shit.
Yeah, it always works.
It worked since the Nazis. It worked since before that. It's just sad.
I think you're familiar with the word talahun. What
talahun? Yeah.
Talahun. What's your take on that word? Is that a new word to also replace the K word, or to refer to migrants, or is it just a trend word that has been used on social media?
So I have mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, it describes a certain type of person.
Yeah.
With a certain type, they dress a certain way. They speak a certain way. They do
the fake Gucci bag.
Exactly. And for some reason, I don't know what the English word is, but the Schlaghosen are back that are like this, very tight and then very open on the bottom. And for some reason, they wear them. But I think anybody can be a talahun, whether you're white or black or brown. I think it's a way of talking and the way you're acting, the way you dress. And there have always been words for people. In that, like in the past, it used to be proll. Like when I was growing up, or in the 90s, it was proll, and then the words changed. But the problematic side is that it can also be used to describe a certain demographic and to describe a certain type of people, and used to put them down. So I guess we need to see how it evolves. I think at some point there will be a different word that comes in. It can just be a trendy word, but it can also have a different meaning to it.
Yeah. Is there any from experience from your past that you would have liked to be different?
I used to believe so, because the racist experience with racism as a child, and then being really lonely in my family, and learning really early on that I cannot talk to my parents about it because they don't understand it, and they didn't have the right tools at the time to help me. It really influenced me for the longest time, because I then, for myself as a child, I learned these negative self-beliefs that, I don't belong, or I always need to stay back. I cannot be, I need to blend in as much as possible with the way I dress, with the way I speak, with the way I cut my hair, with I don't like with the way I behave at school. I always very, quiet and like don't write good grades, so you don't get any attention, any negative attention, any sort of way, and don't speak up, don't express yourself, don't say your opinion. I had this very deep self-belief that I wasn't worthy, that I hated myself for the longest time. I always wished I had straight hair, because at the time, like I was even straightening my hair. I had like big locks, and when I was straightening my hair, and I wanted to blend in and assimilate as much as possible, and so that really influenced me for the longest time. And for a very long time, I wish that would have been different. But today, I realized that I don't want to change it, because it brought me to today. It brought me to music. It brought me to activism. It brought me to the fact that I'm now sitting here with you guys. And I did therapy for the longest time. And it's really, I'm still doing it, and it's really helping me. And it's really helped me to realize that I'm worthy and I belong. And so no, I don't.
It made you who you are.
Made me who I am, exactly.
Yeah.
You got to go. Sometimes, unfortunately, you got to go through these tough experiences to become who you are. And I feel like I'm still evolving, still growing, still finding out who I am. Because I feel like traumatic experiences, or whatever experiences we have, especially as children, like they put a lot of mud on the real you. And then when you start working on it, you scratch the mud off, and the real you comes more and more out. And so I'm still in the process, but yeah, I'm feeling a lot better today, and I'm also grateful. It sounds weird, but I'm also grateful for this experience, because it brought me here.
Any piece of advice for the people who feels like an outsider, who felt like you?
Yeah, I'll say that to the camera. You belong, you're worthy, and you're here for a reason, and you're good the way you are. So stay with us, keep going, and everything will get better.
It was a pleasure having you here. Thanks for sharing your life experience and your thoughts and the advice. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Aber wie Hooligan war wie ein Hodja, willst mich nicht am Tisch mit deiner Tochter. Ich rede von christliches Deutschland und geht nicht in Kirche Sonntag. Kommt von wo sie in Gehwagen Runden dreht. Lass Nachricht von früh auf ungelesen, ja. Ich mach, denn ich hab Möglichkeit, die mein Vater nie hat. Frühschicht, Schlaf, ein Dreckjob, kein Geld, wach auf mit Gage auf Laptop. Komm von Briefkastenplatz wegen Rechnung, zum Briefkastenplatz wegen Fanpost.